Hey guys, Andy here. So Huawei are actually one of the biggest phone manufacturers in the world. In fact, I even heard on a podcast this morning, I don't know if it's true, but they commented that at one point recently it was thought they overtook Apple to be the #1 phone manufacturer in the world, which might surprise some of you, considering I know a lot of you are in the UK, and they're not massive over in the UK. They're probably even less so in the US, I guess, because the Mate 20 Pro isn't even sold there now, I don't think. I think Huawei, they've come on in the UK specifically leaps and bounds in the last year or so. The P20 Pro grabbed a lot of headlines with its camera, and I think that kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to Huawei. Then the Mate 20 Pro came along, and I guess its legacy just built. It became even more known because, again, another fantastic camera and quite a sort of noticeable design. I've had people say to me, "Oh, is that one with like the 4 lenses?" Well, no, one of them was a flash, but yeah, you got the 4. And I think they're advertising on TV. I don't watch regular TV very often, but I think they're advertising quite heavily on there. So I was just having a look at what else Huawei did, and I saw the Honor 8X. So it had a 20 megapixel camera and reasonable feature set generally, so I thought, well, give that a go. It was £209 when I bought it on Amazon. I think $229 is the fairly sort of regular retail price, or recommended retail price. So what do we get for that sort of money? It's in the same kind of ballpark as the Pocophone F1, although that is a bit more expensive. But that's the kind of, and in fact I did do a video which I will try and remember to appear up here, where I compared the two kind of hardware-wise really, rather than actual sort of just talking about what they can do. If you're a subscriber, you probably know those videos, so you might want to go and see that if that's a consideration that you have. Which phone do you want? But right now I thought, well, let's give you a bit. I've been using it for a good few days, and it's time to tell you about the Honor 8X. It's quite a nice design. It reminds me a little bit of the Pixel 3 XL actually, in that it's the old slabber phone, which I like quite a bit, which basically is sort of quite thin, very wide, flat slab of phone. As you can see, it's quite light at 175 grams. I say quite like that compared to other phones I've been using recently, which are kind of 190 to 200 grams. So it does feel a bit lighter. It is a nice design. It's a little bit of a fingerprint magnet, as you can see, and you can't see too well, but actually it's two-tone back, so there's a strip there that's a bit of a different, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up with all the reflection, and apparently it's much more obvious on the blue, where it looks like almost the colours are going two different ways. As you lean the phone back and forth, the sort of shimmer goes in a reverse way in the strip that's got the Honor and the lenses. So I quite like that, and as I say, it's just not as noticeable on the black, and I should maybe have done a better job of trying to clean the phone before starting the video. But yeah, I actually quite like the design. You'll see as we turn the device on, there is a notch at the top, but it's quite small. You can hide. Huawei do a good job of letting you hide so that top whole bit would be black and the notifications just show. In fact, let's nip into the settings real quick. See how quickly we can find. There we go. Notch. So if we go to the top. I think one of the reasons I prefer is because let's turn the notch off. So you see how that's sort of angled in that corner, but see how it's angled in that corner. To me it looks a little bit weird, so if we leave it as it is, at least the corners kind of match up. It's got a rear mounted fingerprint sensor, as you probably noticed, which is reliable enough. It's not all that quick compared to others, but it's not like you're not waiting for 5 seconds for it to activate the device. It also does have face detect. I've watched a couple of the reviews of the device just to check I haven't missed anything really, and a couple of them say, yeah, it's just as quick as the premium devices. It isn't. So my Mate 20 Pro, I feel like I can rely entirely on the face unlock. I'll pull the phone out of my pocket. A lot of the time I won't bother pressing the power button because it knows it's come out of the pocket, so it all of a sudden starts looking for a face, it finds it, and it's in pretty much as quick as if I mucked about with the fingerprint sensor. Let's try. I don't know if it's going to work at all if I... Yeah, so I didn't press it. Let me hold nearer the bottom. Let me turn the power off. So, okay, so you saw how quick. I only turned it around very briefly there. So it's not that it's slow. I just don't find it as reliable as the top end, as the Mate 20 Pro or the OnePlus 6T. Both of those I was quite happy that, you know, I wouldn't need to use the fingerprint sensor. With the 8X, I do feel like I'm better off just using the fingerprint sensor. Sometimes it just doesn't, I found it wasn't as reliable in the dark as well, or if I had glasses on. I do wear glasses sometimes, and it just wasn't as reliable. So it's good, but it's not as good as the top-end devices. The actual hardware in the phone is a high silicon Kirin 710 chipset, which is a 12 nanometer chipset. So the top-end devices have 10 nanometer. The Mate 20 Pro has a 7 nanometer, which is one of the first, and maybe only at the moment, 7 nanometer Android devices. So 12 nanometer means it's a little bit thicker, it's going to take a little bit more power. But the 710 is quite new. I think it was only this summer, and it equates to the Snapdragon 600 series, I think. It's an octa-core processor. The GPU is a Mali G51 MP4. I can't tell you much about that if I'm very honest. We have 4 gig of RAM in the 64 gig version, which I have. You can get more in the 120. I think it's 6 gig in the 128. All of that boils down to a Geekbench 4 of 5,582. I did check it against Geekbench 3 as well, 5,977, and that's okay. I think that's in a reasonable position for the money you're paying. The Pocophone is kind of known for being a bit of a freak with the amount of power it has for the money that you pay, so it can't challenge that. But it does okay. It beats some, you know, it beats lower, cheaper devices, as it should. And I think, quite frankly, I think the performance of the device is okay. You get a little bit of lag and jitter. Let's see if we see any. As I open up the app drawer, I mean, that was quite smooth. There have been times I'll press the app drawer and it'll just jerk a little bit, and we can switch between apps without too much trouble. So performance-wise, generally I think it does okay. There is a small notification LED up in the top corner. It's a tiny little thing next to the camera. I've not got anything obviously at the moment, but it will flash just a little pin of green or whatever. Also, it has NFC, which is quite uncommon for budget devices, if we're being very honest, but it does have NFC, which is good. The speakers, let's give a little sample. We'll start with podcast.
If somebody, you know, is suitable for a job, or perhaps is you want to screen them for you know, an unknown crime like terrorism or some sort of rare crime like that. So they're pretty well acknowledged to have a lot of trouble.
So that sounds okay. The volume's reasonably good. We are going to move on to some music at 85.1 decibels, but the quality of the sound is not great.
Every time the two get undressed, I hear symphonies in and the trumpet. I know you want it. I know you want it. Good girl.
So reasonable volume, not great quality. For me, I mean, I don't listen to a lot of music on my phone. I listen to podcasts, and I like to make phone calls just using the external speaker or the loudspeaker, and it's okay for that. It's fine. You can hear. I could hear it above my kettle. For me, that's the big test. So yeah, the speaker not too bad. I think the only thing, or there's a couple of things to point out, I suppose, in the hardware. It doesn't have 5G Wi-Fi. If that's a big issue to you, I don't particularly bother me. I don't find 5G all that much better than 2.4G or gigahertz. Sorry, not G. But it couldn't see my 5 gigahertz network, and it has dual SIM and space for a micro SD card. So a lot of them these days, the second slot is one or the other. This literally has 2 SIM card slots and a micro SD card slot. So if that's important to you, that's a pretty big plus, I would guess. The screen is one of the largest screens I've been using for a long time, to be honest. It's 6.5 inches LTPS IPS LCD. It has an 84% screen to body ratio, so we've mentioned already the notch at the top. There's a bit of a lip at the bottom, and there's a bit of a board around the edges, but not much. It's generally, that's quite an impressive display. We can see it using the magazine unlock. Sometimes you get some really nice images, as in magazine unlock being each time I unlock the phone you get a different image. I mean, LCD displays these days really are quite good, and this is no exception. It's 2340 by 1080, so that's a 19.5 by 9 ratio, and it's about 397 pixels per inch. So again, the density is pretty damn good. going back a year or two, you would not get that kind of density on a budget device that's only just over £200. Strangely, it's on Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which is quite old now, but it's hardened glass at least. It goes up to 454 lumens at its brightest, so that's not great if we're being honest. That is down near the lower end of the chart, but again, it's in the same sort of region as the Pocophone and other budget devices. You will notice it in bright daylight, I think. I haven't really had bright daylight to test it against, unfortunately. It's been quite dreary. But I think at that kind of, from experience, that sort of brightness, you might struggle a bit in bright daylight. The other noticeable thing you may already have realised, there's no always-on display. For me, I mean, it's an LCD display. You're not going to get always on. There's not even kind of a lift to, oh, well, I mean, there's lift to that wake, but it's not. I do miss an always on display, I really do. But that's just one of the sort of trade-offs, I guess. Software, we're running Android 8.1. Let's just go into the About phone to show you. So Android 8.1, EMUI version 8.2. It confirms there some of the specs that I've just mentioned. We can see there the security patch is 1st of September. Right now, at the time of recording, it's the 9th of December. So we're kind of 3 months out of date there, which is not great. I mean, it's better than budget phones that maybe the likes of Xiaomi and the proper budget devices. It's better than those, but for one of the biggest phone manufacturers in the world, you would hope it would be a bit more up to date than that. Samsung do a better job with that. So I've mentioned the magazine, and like I do quite like that. It's very simple in that it just changes the picture each time you. And there's some nice pictures. You can edit and adjust those. Oh, recognising face. Not that we need to. We get swipe by default as the keyboard. I'm not a huge fan of swipe, but obviously you can switch that in and out as you wish. You get a few bits of bloat, I guess you're going to have to call them. For example, booking.com look. But you can uninstall most of it. You get some games pre-installed like Assassin's Creed, Asphalt Nitro, Dragon Mania. But again, almost all of it can be uninstalled. I don't mind that so much. Put a, you want to, maybe the phone's a little bit cheaper because they've had deals with some distributors to put their software on here. I'm alright though if I can just remove it again. That's not really an issue. Party mode, I didn't get a chance to try this. So it's got one bit called party mode, which in theory hooks up your Huawei device to other Huawei devices. Now strangely, I have got another Huawei device. I've got the Mate 20 Pro. I was just looking for party mode on the Huawei App Store. It's not there. So how do I need someone else with the 8X? I mean, I think it's relatively new. So maybe maybe it becomes more, give it a few weeks. I mean, even then, how useful is it really going to be? Are 5 phones playing music at the same time? Are they going to sound like... They're probably okay, actually, I suppose. You're going to miss the bass anyway, still, aren't you? It'd be good if you can link in a Google Home or something after. Anyway, so you get things like that. Software-wise, and then I don't know, well, it's EMUI if you've seen it before. I don't think it's too bad. It's reasonably stock looking in some ways. And I don't have massive issues with it. I'm more worried about the updates. So we're on 8.1. When will it get 9.0? Yeah, who knows? It could be months and months away. So that's probably the bigger issue as far as the software. So we're going to move on to talk about the cameras. On the back, we've got 2 lenses. There's a 12 megapixel f1.8 27mm, and there's a 2 megapixel depth sensing lens as well. Although the AI mode limits the images to 12 megapixel. In one of the reviews I watched, it said it had the same camera as the P20 Pro. I'm not sure I believe that in a £209 phone. It does 1080p at 60 frames per second. On the front, we have a 16 megapixel f2.0 26mm lens, which will do 1080p in 30 frames per second. I actually quite like Huawei's camera mode. So you get a lot of options up the top there. Down the bottom we have the different modes. So it has things like aperture priority mode, where you can change the aperture, that's the f-stop, I think, through all different variations that you might want, but it does everything else in automatic for you, which should make it a bit easier to get some great photos. I think we have a pro mode. Where did that go? I have to say, there we go. I haven't particularly used it, but you get a pro mode. Close that off. So yeah, the app itself is quite nice. It's quite quick. Take a picture of my glass of water. It's got quite a quick lens. The images themselves, I think they look pretty good. So again, reviews I've watched have been a bit of a sort of varying result. Some say they don't like the camera, some say they do. I quite like it. I think the big test for a budget camera is when the light gets a bit darker, and I thought the pictures I was talking about were pretty good. So I mean, you know, you can see these images, you can make a decision yourself, I suppose. It does also have a night mode, which is okay. So I took it, I mean, it's almost pitch black when I took this picture of my car, and it looks alright, but then you compare it to the Mate 20 Pro version, clearly the processing power has a big part to play in night mode, because they are very different images. The video quality, again, I thought was quite sharp, quite good colours, quite crisp, but the lacking image stabilisation, reasonably big issue. Well, I don't know if I'm going to call it an issue or not, but it's quite apparent, shall we say. So, I don't know, I'll leave it up to you whether it's a good camera. I thought it was, and then I've read different reviews of it, and I've looked at different videos, and they point out certain things that I hadn't particularly noticed. But I'm not a pro. I'm not a, you know, I'm just a guy that takes pictures, and I generally thought the pictures looked quite good. Now the battery, I didn't get around to. I realised I'd kind of put this time aside in my day to do the video review, and as I was starting up and just kind of reading through my notes, I realised, oh, I've not done the battery test. So normally I charge the phone to 100%, and I have some sort of routines I do for an hour, like a video that I play and then it reloads Twitter for an hour, and I take what the battery is and whack it on my chart and show you the chart at this point. And to be honest, to do that from where I am now would take at least a couple of hours. Oh, I can't really delay the video a couple of hours, so I'm doing it without. Short version, I've not done my battery test, but what I have had is AccuBattery running, and that basically monitors. So you can see here, based on 5 sessions in the last 7 days, when the screen's on, we're using about 8.3% an hour. When the screen's off, we're using about 1.4. What that means is I could go from 100% to 0 in 12 hours and 5 minutes if I had the screen on the whole time. If I left the screen off the whole time, I'm going, what is that, 3 days? Combined use, so just regular use, means I'm going to last about 2 days. That's pretty good battery life. So I will try and remember to put in the comments when I do it. I'll try and do it after I've finished recording this video, do the battery test, and I'll put that in the comments if you actually want to know where it places. Bearing in mind, anything above 90 is pretty good. 92, 93s and 94s are very good, so have a look in the comments and see what it's called. But just looking at AccuBattery, to me that's, I mean, 2 days of use, that's really good. That's really good. So the battery, probably one of its strong points, I would suggest. It's a, did I mention it's a 3700, well, 3750 LiPo non-removable battery. So that is very good. So in conclusion, I do really like the device. Again, some of the reviews I was watching saying it's the budget phone of the year. That's a bold claim actually when you've got the Pocophone F1, only kind of £50 or so more, well, £50 to £70 more. Even the Mi A2 Lite that I reviewed in the last month, half the price almost. Really very good device. I think you get a good blend of things, a good balance of things with Honor 8X. So I think the screen's very nice, the battery life is great, the camera I think is great. There's a little bit of lag and jitter here and there. You can play games on this, but it's not, it wouldn't be your first choice if you're an avid gamer. I think it boils down to if you think you can live with MIUI, not MIUI, the EMUI, sorry. Xiaomi is MIUI. Is it EMUI? EMUI, I think. So it boils down to if you can live with EMUI. I mean, I am with my Mate 20 Pro. I don't think it's too bad. I think updates are a bit behind. I don't know when this phone will get Android 9.0. But if you're kind of okay with that, some people, they must be on the latest cutting-edge software. Other people, just as long as the experience is okay. Some people just, they wouldn't even know. If you ask them what version of Android you're on, they wouldn't even know. That's fine. And if you're that kind of person, then I think this is a really sort of decent option at £229, or like I forget, I don't know if it's on sale or what, but I got it for $209 on Amazon. So I don't know, hopefully that's answered all your questions. I think it is a good device. I think it's definitely an option if you're looking at around the £200 mark. In fact, yeah, because I mean, if you're looking around 200, stretching up to a Pocophone F1 for 280 to 300 is, I mean, that's almost 50% more. You could drop down to the Mi A2 Lite, but you don't get as good a camera, and it is a slightly slower and slightly smaller. I think this is a really good option around the £200 mark. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. For now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also, come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum if you've got any questions about things, or request me to review things, or anything else. Just come and have a chat on the forum.